King Charles spent a short period of time in hospital today.
The monarchy did not shake because of a rumor. It shook because of a signature. One quiet stroke of a pen behind closed palace doors allegedly triggered the most explosive royal turning point in years. And when King Charles reportedly uttered the chilling words, "The time has come," the atmosphere inside the palace changed instantly. Suddenly, this was no longer speculation, no longer palace gossip, no longer a private concern hidden behind royal walls. It became a moment that threatened to redefine the future of the crown itself. Because if the reports were true, then the king who waited a lifetime to wear the crown had just taken the first step toward walking away from it. What happened inside that room continues to fuel intense speculation. According to the story unfolding behind palace walls, Charles remained seated after signing the papers, his hand lingering near the pen as though he could not quite accept what had just happened. Witnesses allegedly described a silence so heavy it felt almost physical. The documents were no longer theoretical plans whispered through corridors. They had become reality, a reality capable of changing every relationship, every duty, and every future role within the royal family. One senior official reportedly carried the folder away with unusual care, not because it was physically heavy, but because everyone understood the symbolic weight it carried. And as Charles watched those papers disappear from sight, something appeared to shift in his expression. For decades, he had waited to become king. For decades, he had prepared for the responsibility. Yet now, according to insiders, he looked less like a monarch protecting his reign and more like a man saying goodbye to a future he had spent his entire life chasing. But if Charles appeared emotional, the reaction from Queen Camilla allegedly revealed an entirely different layer of drama. Sources claim she read the confirmation message more than once, almost unable to believe what she was seeing. Charles had signed. Charles had acted. Charles had apparently decided that the moment could no longer be postponed. For Camilla, this was not merely a constitutional development. It was deeply personal. Her position, influence, and future within the institution had always been tied to Charles's reign. If that reign was approaching its conclusion, then countless assumptions suddenly became uncertain. And then came Prince William. The future king was reportedly summoned almost immediately. Those present claim he did not appear shocked, yet there was something far more painful visible in his reaction. Because expecting something to happen and actually watching it happen are two completely different experiences. William allegedly lowered his eyes and asked only one question: "Where is my father?" That simple question reportedly froze the room, because beneath all the constitutional procedures, beneath all the planning documents and succession discussions, stood a son confronting the possibility that his father's reign was entering its final chapter. As internal notices quietly moved through palace offices, aides who normally maintained perfect composure reportedly became unusually silent. They understood what was at stake. Abdication does not merely alter ceremonial duties. It changes power structures. It changes influence. It changes loyalties. It changes everything. Yet those papers represented only the beginning of the crisis. The real challenge was not administrative. It was emotional. Charles was no longer dealing solely with constitutional responsibilities. He was now confronting the consequences as a father, husband, and monarch simultaneously. Every major royal figure would be pulled into the storm. Every relationship would face pressure. Every private feeling risked becoming public spectacle. William reportedly found himself trapped between duty and heartbreak. Camilla allegedly saw her certainty slipping away. Princess Anne focused on institutional stability. Catherine quietly prepared for the public scrutiny that would inevitably follow. And at the center of it all stood Charles, a man caught between relief and regret, a king torn between duty and emotion, a monarch allegedly forced to confront the possibility that preserving the institution might require sacrificing his own place within it, because once those papers carried his signature, there was no hiding behind delays, no retreating into silence, no pretending the future could wait. The decision had been made. And according to palace insiders, William felt the impact immediately. Sources claim the prince entered a private meeting carrying a burden unlike anything he had experienced before. In one moment, he was still the heir preparing for a distant future. In the next, he was reportedly being prepared for a future arriving much sooner than expected. That created a painful contradiction. He loved his father, but he also had to prepare to replace him. No amount of royal training could make that easier. Meanwhile, Camilla reportedly viewed events through a very different lens. Years of public criticism, controversy, and scrutiny had finally led her to a position beside the king. Yet if the monarchy was shifting toward William's era, questions naturally followed. What would happen to her influence? What would happen to her role? What would happen to the future she believed had finally become secure? At the same time, Catherine reportedly remained focused on William himself. Rather than trying to erase the reality of the situation, she allegedly concentrated on helping him navigate it. Palace insiders claim she understood something important. The future king was not stepping into a celebration. He was stepping into a crisis, and he would need someone steady beside him. Then came the moment many insiders now describe as the turning point. According to reports, Charles placed the signed folder between himself and William. No speech, no grand announcement, no dramatic declaration, just silence. A silence that allegedly said more than any public statement ever could. Father and son looked at the documents, then looked at each other, and in that single moment, both reportedly understood what had begun. But what few people knew was that the seeds of this shocking decision may have been planted much earlier during a private royal rehearsal that exposed a deeply uncomfortable truth inside the monarchy. The palace may have wanted the public to believe that everything unfolded slowly, carefully, and with royal dignity. But according to the whispers that allegedly spread behind closed doors, the true turning point happened long before the signature touched the paper. It reportedly began during a private Windsor rehearsal that few outsiders ever knew existed. What should have been a routine ceremonial moment allegedly became something far more alarming. Sources claim Charles paused unexpectedly during a royal oath rehearsal and looked toward William in a way that left the room uneasy. It was only a brief hesitation, only a few seconds. But inside an institution built on certainty, even a momentary pause can feel like an earthquake. Palace insiders allegedly noticed it immediately. William reportedly stepped forward naturally, not as a man chasing power, but as a son instinctively trying to help his father. And according to those present, that simple act changed the atmosphere of the entire room. The moment may have been brief, but the implications allegedly lingered for days. Some reportedly saw concern, others saw a warning, but everyone supposedly understood the same thing. The future was arriving faster than anyone expected. Charles allegedly carried that moment with him long after the rehearsal ended. Every conversation, every briefing, every document reportedly seemed to point toward the same uncomfortable conclusion. The monarchy could survive many things, but uncertainty at the top was not one of them. And that realization reportedly followed him all the way to the desk where the abdication papers eventually waited. Yet the most emotional confrontation was still ahead. Sources claim Camilla refused to accept the situation quietly. Before any transition could move forward, she allegedly demanded one final private discussion with Charles. What happened inside that room remains the subject of endless speculation. According to reports, Camilla entered determined to fight for the future they had built together. Charles, meanwhile, reportedly appeared calm but emotionally exhausted. Between them sat the signed papers. Between them sat years of sacrifice, controversy, loyalty, and struggle. Camilla allegedly asked whether this decision came from duty, pressure, or surrender. And according to insiders, that question struck directly at the heart of the crisis, because each answer carried consequences. If it was duty, history would likely praise him. If it was pressure, questions would follow. If it was surrender, the monarchy itself could appear weakened. Reports claim Charles remained silent for several moments before repeating only one phrase. The time has come. Those words allegedly ended the debate. For Camilla, insiders say it was the moment she realized the decision had moved beyond emotion, beyond negotiation, beyond persuasion. The future was already in motion. The papers were signed, the transition had begun, and no amount of personal heartbreak could stop it. Meanwhile, William reportedly found himself entering a completely new reality. Internal briefings allegedly increased. Transition schedules reportedly appeared on his desk. Senior officials allegedly began preparing him for responsibilities that once seemed years away. Yet insiders insist there was no sense of triumph surrounding him. If anything, the opposite was true. William allegedly appeared burdened by the speed of events. Every new responsibility came attached to a painful reminder that his father was stepping away. At the same time, Catherine reportedly became one of the stabilizing forces inside the family. Sources suggest she understood the delicate balance required. William could not appear too eager. He could not appear overwhelmed. He had to project confidence without looking ambitious, strength without appearing cold, stability without appearing appearing detached. According to palace whispers, Catherine helped him navigate that impossible line. As preparations accelerated, Princess Anne allegedly emerged as one of the strongest advocates for institutional discipline. Reports claim she repeatedly emphasized that personal emotions could not be allowed to create confusion around the succession process. To Anne, the survival of the institution reportedly remained the highest priority. While others wrestled with grief and uncertainty, she allegedly focused on ensuring that the machinery of the monarchy continued moving smoothly. Soon, the effects reportedly became impossible to ignore. Internal responsibilities allegedly shifted. Meetings allegedly changed. Staff reportedly began receiving revised instructions. Some offices that once centered around Charles allegedly started coordinating more closely with William's team. Palace insiders claim the atmosphere itself felt different. Not dramatic, not chaotic, just different. Like everyone could sense that one chapter was quietly ending while another was beginning. The most emotional moment reportedly came during a private conversation between father and son. According to sources, no aides were present, no officials, no ceremonial language, just Charles and William speaking honestly. Charles allegedly admitted that signing the papers felt like losing part of himself. William reportedly responded that he never wanted the throne to arrive through pain. Insiders claim those words deeply affected the king. For a brief moment, there were no titles, no ranks, no constitutional responsibilities, only a father and a son facing the reality of change. When news of the alleged abdication finally spread beyond palace walls, public reaction was immediate. Headlines exploded. Commentators debated. Crowds gathered outside palace gates. Some viewed the decision as an act of courage. Others saw it as heartbreaking. Many simply struggled to believe it was happening at all. Yet through all the noise, one image continued to dominate the conversation. A king who had waited his entire life for the crown, allegedly choosing to step aside because he believed the institution mattered more than his personal desire to keep it.